Is the Mario movie actually that bad? Well, you better believe I went to go watch it today with my brother. We had a good time. I watched it at the prime time of 1:30 p.m. on a weekday, so I didn't get any kids involved. It was a pretty good viewing experience. I got to watch it in IMAX, in 2D. It was a good time. But the question is, how is it? Is it as bad as critics say? Is it as good as fans say? What are some things I noticed? And of course, what does it rank on the game gauge? Yeah, we rank movies on the game gauge now. I know, it's insane. But I have a lot to say about this movie, and I have so many deep thoughts that I really haven't heard much of. But to be fair, I've kind of stayed away from this movie online altogether. I have purposefully not seen anyone else's reviews or takes on it. I try to limit myself as much as possible to some of the trailers or clips that have been online before the movie came out, because that kind of just spoils things. Now, I did want to say quickly before I get into the meat and potatoes is that I am going to say some spoilers, but before you click away, please come back. After you watch the movie, come back. Or if you don't care about spoilers at all, feel free to listen, because what I have to say is hopefully interesting and hopefully a take that you will agree with me on. So please, if you don't want to hear spoilers, now is your warning. I'm going to get into the spoilers. I've learned about myself that I suck really bad at doing some movie reviews without a script, so I kind of had a little bit of a format going on here in front of me. Got a little mini bullet point script, but what I've learned about myself if I'm trying to review a movie is that I'm not that good at it. But today, I have some pretty strong opinions about this movie. Last time I tried to do this for Russ Vandy 2, I did a Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie review, and it's not up on my channel because I literally just couldn't do it. Mainly because I didn't talk about spoilers, so I feel like I just need to give a little spoiler warning here. I also just think that you can't really do a movie review without spoiling the movie, because regardless, because you got to talk about the movie. I really do think that a movie should go in with your first impressions like completely dry. But anyways, here's your spoiler warning, but please come back after you've watched the movie. Remember to type in Russ Vandy 2 and click this movie review again. That would be so epic. And if that's something you did, let me know, just comment. I'll come back, or I'm back, because I would love to know that you remembered about me, please. Before we even got into the movie theater, I had spent quite a bit of money on the Yoshi popcorn bucket. I thought it would make my experience a lot better. And I also got this tin, like this little tin, this metal tin. And to be honest, I didn't even use them. I just kept them in the bag on the floor in front of me, because this Yoshi thing was $37 Canadian. So it was about 30 bucks. US. And I'm not gonna put my buttery popcorn in this. This is a collectible. If I'm gonna put stuff in it, it'll be like snack. But also it's like so massive that I don't really wanna put any snacks in it. And I get that it's a popcorn bucket, but I don't know, I just didn't really wanna use it. Also, transferring popcorn from a bag to the Yoshi, it just didn't work. I just didn't wanna do it. It just wasn't worth doing. I don't wanna get it dirty, but man, so many people have talked about this silly little Yoshi popcorn bucket. Probably wasn't worth the money. I'm not a big popcorn bucket collector, but you know what? For me buying this, I've learned that I'm not a popcorn bucket collector, and it is what it is. It's not that big of a deal. Let me know if you got the popcorn Yoshi bucket. I guess there was also a Luma one that had an LED in it, and it was a little bright. So I thought that was pretty fun. That was kind of cool, but it was sold out where I went to see the movie. Anyway, I got my Yoshi bucket and my bag of popcorn, and my brother got some popcorn too. We were ready to see the movie, and let's just get right into it. And right away, when the movie opened, it felt very similar to the first movie. I'll just say that. And I just rewatched the first movie for the first time in like at least, I don't know, a year and a half. And I realized that the first movie wasn't that good. And I have a lot of the same issues with this Mario Galaxy movie as I did with the first movie. So pretty much the first movie was fine. It was as good as I expected it to be. And let me just say, my expectations for these video game movies are generally pretty low overall. And we can just kind of see that with the scores. Actually, before we get into the movie, let's talk about the scores really quick. The scores going into this movie are quite awful. The Rotten Tomato score, so the critics, have scored it just under 50 at about 42% or 46%. That is pretty much a bad movie. Rotten Tomatoes would call it rotten, in fact, which means that they would not recommend seeing this. And that's even a little bit worse than the first movie. The first movie scored about 50, just over 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the fact fact that this scored a little bit worse, yeah, it's not great. Now, the audience score was super high at 91% to 95%, which is still a little bit lower than the first movie. So both movies have a little bit lower scores with both critics and the audience. And I think this has to do with two reasons. The main one is that the novelty of a Mario movie has probably worn off a little bit more. And secondly, I don't know, it just might not have been, it's still not a great movie. I mean, I'm an audience fan and I liked the movie for what the movie was, but I think overall we can all probably see that the critics kind of got a point. I think the critics is a little bit different because they kind of go into it not being a video game fan, or possibly not being a video game fan. They're not as close to the Nintendo IP as, say, you and I are. So obviously going into it, they're going into a very critical look at it, mainly focusing on the character development, the story itself, and less about the characters and the nostalgia and the callbacks to games. And that's generally why the critic scores are lower. So just before I get into my opinion on that, I just wanted to call that out. I understand that the critic reviews are low and the audience scores are high. I do understand why critic scores are low, but I will get into that. And let me just say, I think it's pretty clear at this point, if you've seen my first or my second channel here, I'm a pretty big Nintendo fan. I love Mario, I love the Mario movies. But anyways, let's actually get into the movie. I've been yapping your ear off for the first little bit, and let's just get into my first impressions of the movie. And pretty much the first 15 minutes, we are kind of setting the tone for the movie. We're kind of just we're revisiting the Mushroom Kingdom, we're revisiting Mario and Luigi. Mario and Luigi are now together a lot, and we get to meet our brand new character, Yoshi. And this is kind of the first little red flag that I noticed in the movie itself. It is a very fast-paced movie, and things happen for almost no reason. Like, it's clear to me that they just wanted to add Yoshi into this movie, and the best way that they could come up with having Yoshi in this movie is to have him just simply appear. They don't find him anywhere. He just kind of shows up in this pipe and automatically becomes their best friend, and they spend every minute with Yoshi. It really just kind of feels like it's just happening too fast. I don't even know. But he just kind of shows up and he starts being a member of the gang, which honestly, it sounds like I'm complaining, but it's not horrible. They did a good job with Yoshi and joining the crew. I really liked how they had this little flashback of how he kind of hatched from an egg, and then he was in Brooklyn for a little while, and then he just kind of stumbled into them. I like how they showed it, although I definitely think it could have been a little bit better. It would have been cool if maybe they found him as a little baby and they had to grow him and give him food and learn about him and all that stuff. But no, he just kind of shows up, which is a very common theme in this movie, as I've kind of said. So right away, the first 15 minutes felt very bland, felt very stale. It was a little bit slow. Once again, we're just kind of seeing, we're seeing how they're setting the tone. I guess it wasn't too bad when they first showed off Rosalina, but also, I don't know what I think of that. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's just keep going and talking about it. I think one of the biggest issues this movie has is the story and the overall pacing. Like I said, everything happens a little bit too fast. This movie is just kind of ADHD. An issue starts and then it almost instantly gets solved, or like they try and do something. They try to force a problem to happen and then solve it really quickly. So let me try and give you an example here. One of the issues that the movie has, or one of the story plot lines, is the fact that Bowser is small. Bowser has been small since the end of the first movie, and in the first little bit here we see that he's a little small guy. Anyways, Mario, Luigi, and Bowser and Yoshi are all just kind of walking while Bowser's small, and he's pretty much just saying, "Mario, I want to get big. You should punch me." And then Mario just kind of punches him. How come he doesn't have self-control now, but he did back at the castle? Maybe he was just kind of over it, I guess. But it's just one of those things that kind of just happened for no reason. Or like when Peach and Toad at the beginning of the movie just kind of leave. They both just leave because the kingdom is in trouble, and they leave Mario and Luigi in charge. It was so weird because it just kind of happened so fast. Peach and Toad just jump in a star and just run. They just run away. If they actually like talked about it and broke it down a little bit, it probably would have made sense. Or I think the very worst one of things just kind of happening was at the very beginning of the movie when Bowser Jr. traps Rosalina, and then they take Rosalina when she's captured and Luma is captured up into his ship, and then she randomly just decides to get angry and breaks the chains. Like, why didn't she do that at the very beginning? So it was just kind of like things happen for no reason. They kind of just force things to happen so that they can move the plot line forward. That is a very common theme I found in both this movie and the first Mario movie. It's stop and start so many times. 1 minute you're just kind of watching and seeing the story progress, and then the next moment it's like a fast chase scene. It's very intense. It's go, go, go. It's ADHD the movie, which I think I already said. Now, that being said, although the pacing was kind of fast and the story had a little bit of issues when it comes to solving its own problems, I did like some certain aspects of the story. For example, and once again, I already said spoiler alert, so remember that, but I think a huge plot point that was finally answered in all of Mario lore was with Rosalina and Peach. This is a big deal. I feel like this is a big deal and needs to be talked about more. And I don't believe, to my knowledge, they've ever discussed this in a game at all. But we found out that Rosalina and Peach are sisters. I think there was like a game theory over 10 years ago at this point where the theory was that Rosalina was Peach's mom or something like that. It's a classic game theory video, but I think everybody has kind of had a little bit of a hunch that they've been related, but this movie actually shows us that they are. Now, it's kind of crazy because they don't really talk about it at all, or at least that much. They briefly mention it and it's a little bit teased at the beginning, but I really do think that this is probably the best plotline of the entire movie, and they really don't talk about it for that long. And I really think that if they kind of dug into this plotline a little bit more with Peach and Rosalina and a little bit more of their backstory, how they even came to exist. I guess they were made from stardust, which is kind of cool. They actually have no parents, based on my interpretation. But I think it was really cool that they're sisters. Like it's proven here. The lore is that they're sisters. They worked with Shigeru Miyamoto, and he greenlit that idea. So I would say that this is canon. Now, correct me if I'm wrong if we've heard this before. We might have heard this before, but both my brother and I were like, oh, they actually did it. They said it. It was an actual thing. Let's see, what other plot lines did I like in the movie? I liked Fox, but I'll get more into that a little bit later. I liked Bowser Jr., but again, it comes back to like he was just kind of forced in there. It was kind of weird because he just kind of shows up, and the way that they explain it, him being absent in the first movie, is that Bowser was just a horrible father, and that Bowser thought he sent him to boarding school, which is like, it's just so, again, it just feels forced. Like they really just wanted to add Bowser Jr., so they just kind of added Bowser Jr. and tried to figure it out and explain it through the story, but they didn't really do it. And again, the same thing with Yoshi. They just really wanted to add Yoshi, and so they did. They came up with some random way that Yoshi was involved. Like I said at the beginning, the story was good enough. I think they definitely could have pulled more from like Rosalina's storybook. I think they could have totally pulled from that, or even from the Mario Galaxy game. It was like so intense and crazy. The Mario Galaxy 1 story was actually so deep, and they really didn't pull from the Galaxy games that much, which, let's talk about that. I think that if you were coming to this movie with the expectation that this movie was a full representation of the game itself, you're just not getting that here. Yes, they're in the Galaxy, and yes, they do pull a lot from the games. They really don't pull a lot of like the storyline or the characters. Or something I found really interesting is like, even in the promotional material for this movie, they have Mario like spinning with his little spin, his spin move from the Galaxy games. I don't think he does that once in this entire movie. I guess he does it when he has the flying red power, the red star power up, but that was the only time. He never spins, to my knowledge, with his regular clothes on like they show in the promotional material. I also don't think he ever really communicates with Lumas that much, or has that Luma in his hat like in the games. It's kind of crazy how little they pulled from the Galaxy games, but to be fair, that might not have translated that well to a movie, and the story in Mario Galaxy, the games, are supposed to be shared in a game, and that just wouldn't make sense for maybe a movie like this. I think I really did expect more of a interesting story overall, not just Bowser Jr. and Bowser want to rule over the Mushroom Kingdom, and they have a big machine, and they want to kill the bad guys, and they want to kill the good guys, but that really is all it was. Pretty much Bowser Jr. wants to use Rosalina's power to get this big Boomsday device to work, and they have Rosalina captive, but then they save Rosalina, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just not even, the movie never really had me on my seat. It never really had any emotional drive to it. it was just a fun movie to watch and enjoy, and just kind of, you know, have on and enjoy and look at the visuals, look at the pretty visuals. And yeah, by the way, this movie looked fantastic visually. It looked like a beautiful movie. It was fantastic. The environments were insanely good. The animation, the lighting, the water effects, the special effects, like all of that. It was a phenomenal looking movie, without a doubt. Probably one of the best animated movies I've ever watched in my life. And I really do think that this movie banks a lot on the visual stunningness of it. Like, it really is just so flashy and so crazy that it's just fun to just watch, especially if you know what environments you're in from the games. But I'd say the story and the pacing, as I mentioned, really is what made the critics hate this movie. Now let's go through each of these characters. I've already kind of discussed and talked about each of them, but let's talk about them a little bit more. Yoshi, I've already given my opinion on. He was just kind of thrown in there. He really doesn't have any character development, but he's also Yoshi. I thought it was fun and cool how he saved the babies when the babies were in trouble, but that's really about it. I think he's exactly as I would expect him to be in a movie, and I think they represented Yoshi very well. He did good. Also, the voice actor, Childish Gambino, he did good. I have no problem with how Yoshi sounded. I have no problem with Yoshi in the game at all. Or in this movie. Oh my goodness, I'm sure I've said game instead of movie plenty of times, but yeah, they really did good with Yoshi. I'm happy with how he was. He was funny. He was good and nice. Now, Bowser Jr., once again, kind of taking Bowser's place in a little bit here. There was a slight character development, but he was just kind of go, and it was really odd. He was kind of trying to seek Bowser's approval the whole time and all that stuff, but it's kind of weird because Bowser so blatantly says how horrible of a father he was, like literally sent him to boarding school and all that stuff. I know Bowser Jr. wants to make Bowser happy, but I don't know, it's just like, again, they just needed a bad guy, and they had Bowser Jr., and they really had Bowser Jr. Wasn't very much character development in his character either, but I did like his inclusion. I thought Bowser Jr. looked really cool. And by the way, I should just say, it's still fresh in my brain. I haven't really had this process for too long. I'd love to go watch the movie again for the second time and really solidify these thoughts, but this is just like my first thoughts, first impressions of the movie. So just keep that in mind. But Bowser Jr., he was good. I loved how they used his wonder ability. I thought that was really cool. Now, Bowser has the most character development in this movie out of anyone, I would say. And I really, really liked Bowser in this movie. Really cool. I thought it was very well done. I thought Jack Black did a great job voicing Bowser. I liked how funny he was. He was much more funny in this movie than even the first movie. I thought the jokes overall were a lot better than the first movie. Like, I don't really think I laughed at all in the first movie, but this one I had a couple chuckles. It wasn't like I can't stop laughing, but you know, I had a couple really solid chuckles, and most of it had to do with Bowser, just the way that he was talking and speaking with Luigi. I like the little friendship that Bowser had with Luigi going on, and Luigi actually really liked Bowser. And then, you know, Mario punched him, and Bowser actually really liked Mario and Luigi. He was like actually like vibing with Mario and Luigi. He was like a good guy. He even sacrificed his time in the Honeybee Kingdom so that Mario and Luigi could be set free and go find the princess and all that stuff. So I thought that was a really cool little character arc from Bowser, and it kind of reminds me of how in the games, like the mainline games, Mario and Luigi hate Bowser, but you know, they can play tennis at the end of the day. They can go play a round of Mario tennis. They can go play some soccer. They can play some Mario Kart, and you know, they're all friends at the end of the day. That's kind of what it felt to me like this Bowser was. He was just a nice guy. He was just a cool guy. I thought it was a really cool character development. However, at the very end of the movie, it was really weird how they fumbled it at the end. It was really weird how throughout the whole first half of the movie, Bowser just really likes Mario and Luigi, like good friends with them. That he even says to Bowser Jr. when Bowser Jr. gets Bowser that, you know, Bowser doesn't want Mario and Luigi to get hurt, or, you know, Yoshi or all of them, because he likes them. He actually cared for Mario and Luigi. They're nice guys. And then Bowser Jr. is like, oh, I won't kill them. Don't worry about that. And then it turns out that Bowser Jr. is able to talk Bowser into hating them again at the end. Like, he was actually genuinely mad at Mario at the very end, which is just like a complete 180 of how he was at the beginning of the movie. It just felt like he was too mad at Mario for nothing, especially for that little character arc that he had at the beginning. It was so random, I feel. And they just kind of wanted a reason for Bowser to be mad at Mario again. So yeah, I thought Bowser was really good at the beginning. Very odd how they ended with him though. So that was kind of weird. As for the rest of the cast, Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Peach, and honestly even Rosalina. Well, I guess, okay, Mario, Luigi, and Toad. They all were probably the least involved in this movie out of any of them. I guess Luigi had a little bit more involvement because he was actually in this movie a lot more than the first one. But Mario and Toad had very little going for them in this movie. They were actually very samey. Like, nothing really crazy happened with them. Luigi had a little bit more character development with Bowser and all that stuff, but then they just kind of, I don't know, they just kind of let him, I don't know. Again, I'm kind of processing this in real time, but Mario, Luigi, and Toad, those were, they're pretty laid back. Now, I guess Toad did get a little bit more character development. He was Captain Toad, essentially. They never called him Captain Toad, but he essentially was with the backpack. Oh yeah, and then his backpack got stolen. But even then, it wasn't that crazy. Speaking of his backpack getting stolen, let's talk about the characters that made it in this movie that had been forgotten about for like, I don't know, 20 years or something. We got Wart, Mouser, and Birdo. They were all in the little casino section. I thought they were okay. I don't want to say they were forced because they really weren't forced. There was no reason for them to be in this movie except for Nintendo just really wanting to reintroduce these classic characters purely for nostalgia's sake, which I really like. I think these characters are kind of just showing older viewers, an older audience that they're really going for that nostalgia bait. And I thought that was good. I thought it was cool. I really have no complaints with their characters because we really didn't know much about them anyways. We haven't seen them in so long that really it didn't really matter how they represented these characters, but I think they did a good job showing off these older characters. Like I said before as well, I think Rosalina overall could have had a little bit more to do with the story. I thought the lore with her and Peach were cool, but she really wasn't in this movie that much as I would have expected. It should have been the emotional core, but they kind of barely used it. Now, speaking of characters, we have to go over some of the references and fan service that Nintendo just completely blasted in here. I've already talked about the Wart character and some of those older characters, but I'm talking about some non-Mario characters, some Nintendo-specific characters. This was insane. I think they did a really good job showing off some of these fan servicey characters. They didn't hide them as much. They made them very blatant in this movie. For example, we got Rob. Rob was like at this little service center and they gave him a really funny and robotic personality. It kind of reminds me, they did that thing, you know, if you've watched Zootopia with the sloths, they got like the sloth in the government facility or whatever, and the sloths are really slow. But that's like a very memorable moment of that movie. The fact that I even remember Zootopia, I haven't seen that in so long, but so many people talked about those friggin' sloths. But they did the same thing with Rob, how he's just kind of slow at his job, but he's very quirky. Rob has a personality, he's a voice actor. I thought it was very well done, and I thought it was cool how they showed Rob off in this movie, and that kind of guarantees a little bit more Rob in the future. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that confirms him for Smash. But anyways, we also saw Mr. Game & Watch. I thought that was really, really funny. I did not expect that. That was like the one fan service character. That was really the only third-party Nintendo character, not third-party, but not Mario character that was in this movie that I had no idea going into this. And I thought it was really funny how he slammed Bowser with a number 9. I thought that was so good. Really liked Game & Watch. He was like the final blast of the entire movie. Mr. Game & Watch, not even Mario or Luigi, just Mr. Game & Watch. That was really fun. I thought that was cool. That was a good time. We also saw the Pikmin. There was like a moment in the theater where we saw the SS Dolphin show up on screen. I thought for sure Olimar was going to come out of that ship, but it's actually just a bunch of Pikmin. I don't know if that's canon since, you know, Pikmin come out of the little onions that they have. They're not usually in the SS Dolphin to my knowledge. Maybe they are in a game. Maybe they do go in the SS Dolphin, but I thought for sure they were just in those onions. But anyways, the SS Dolphin comes down from Pikmin. Of course, that's Olimar's ship, and a bunch of Pikmin just kind of walk out. I thought that was really cool as well. Nintendo Nintendo has been loving their Pikmin recently. Kind of wish we saw more of them. Like they could be little minion figures, minion characters, just kind of wreaking havoc on everything. We saw Rob, Mr. Game & Watch, and of course the Pikmin, but the main character that wasn't a Nintendo character was Fox McCloud from the game Star Fox. And can I just say that Fox McCloud in this movie is probably the best character in the movie, hands down. He has the most personality. He is so quirky. I think his voice actor is absolutely perfect for Fox. He's chipper, he's serious when he needs to be serious, and he was just so freaking cool. He was just a cool guy. A perfect movie representation of Fox McCloud in this movie. Like, I think that if they were to make a Star Fox movie, it would be Nintendo Star Wars. Like, even more than Metroid, it's just perfect. And I love how when we first were introduced to Fox McCloud, he's kind of cool. He's a little bit, mysterious. And then they find him and they ask about him, and then he goes on this whole tangent about Star Fox itself. He talks, we see Falco, we see Peppy, we see Slippy, we see the whole Star Fox crew, and he even explains that, you know, he gets split apart from his gang, and oh my goodness, it was just so good. And honestly, a perfect way to start introducing Fox, not only to people who don't know who Fox is, but also to a younger audience. We know that there could be a Star Fox game coming out this year. I think this is a great way to show off Fox as a character and kind of jumpstart his new era into the Switch 2. I think Star Fox is going to be huge this generation. I think we're going to see more than one game from Star Fox, and I think that this Star Fox franchise needs a spin-off. It was just so perfect. The music that went with Star Fox, oh my goodness, it was just so good. I really genuinely believe that Star Fox and everything that they did with this series was done perfectly in this movie. I honestly wish that we saw him a little bit more. Like, he was actually part of the cast, more than I had ever expected him to be. I saw the poster and I really just thought that he was going to be in it for maybe 5 minutes, but no, he was in it for like the last half of the movie, and he was involved. He got a little bit less involved, but he was a major part of the plot line. Major part of it. And it really makes me wonder why they used Fox in the first place. Like, I totally think they could have used, you know, the warp stars, or, you know, those boost stars or whatever. I think they could have easily used those as a way of transportation, but no, they chose to use Fox McCloud and the R-Wing. I think it's the R-Wing. I think that's what it's called. And obviously Nintendo did that on purpose. I think that it's clear that they're gonna redo this Star Fox thing right. They're gonna rejuvenate the series, and that makes me really excited. Now, I would say the only downside to having Fox in this movie is that if you didn't know who Fox was at all, if you had no idea who that was, and you're coming here to watch a Mario movie, it can be a little bit off-putting, and it can be kind of annoying how this random Fox just becomes, you know, this whole big part of the movie. You know what I mean? It just this kind of feels forced over anything, but I do think that it's such a deep take from Nintendo that it really was worth them doing. I see no major downside to this. If anything, it just introduces Fox to such a larger crowd, millions and millions of people who didn't know or who forgot that Fox existed. And I really liked what they did with Fox. Definitely the best character in the movie, which I did not expect. I thought they were gonna screw up. Now, I do wish that I didn't know about Fox going into the movie. They obviously showed off the poster before the movie was even released. They showed off that movie. They showed off Fox, and they announced that he was going to be in the movie. And yeah, I really wish they didn't, because if they showed this in the movie and I was just coming in blind and I hadn't seen any promotion for this, I would have been absolutely flabbergasted. I have no idea what I would have done, but I would have been stunned just how much Fox was involved in this movie. And I also just really enjoyed it. I don't know. It's getting late at this point, but I gotta keep blasting through because I just have so much to talk about with this movie, and I'm sure that I'm gonna miss some things. But yeah, Fox was perfectly represented in this movie. I really hope that they use this exact form of Fox and replicate it and put it in another movie, because I think that the Star Fox movies would be way better and more entertaining than any Mario movie could possibly be. There is so much more personality in Star Fox characters than in Mario characters, and yeah, I just think that would be fantastic. They even use this little cartoon art style, this little anime art style, when they showed off what Star Fox was, and they could make that a whole spin-off, like a cartoon on Netflix, and I'd pay. But anyways, I think my overall thoughts have been quite clear. I yapped about this movie, sorry, for quite a bit. And my key takeaway that I want you to remember me thinking about this movie is the fact that this was exactly as I expected. It's a decent kids movie. It is very flashy, very fun to watch. But I'd say it does definitely lack a lot of the story that it could have had. There was definitely a lot of potential with a Mario Galaxy movie. They really just didn't pull from that much. They just kind of used I really think that they used the Galaxy name for marketing. I mean, it obviously makes sense because they're in the galaxy, but yeah, I'd say overall it's good enough. It's a good kids movie. But also, I guess against that argument of it just being a kids movie is I recently just watched the movie Ratatouille. Pixar's Ratatouille. And yes, that's a kids movie, but I think that movie was so perfectly done. The story was goofy and silly, obviously, a rat cooking food, but they really made that story engaging. They made it fun to watch. They made me on my tippy toes, being a little bit nervous, and just an overall really fantastic movie, Ratatouille. I can't believe I'm talking about Ratatouille right now, but if I compare Ratatouille as a kids movie to the Mario Galaxy movie, Ratatouille, just when it comes to a story and being engaging and all that stuff, Ratatouille is just such a better movie, as a storytelling movie. And yeah, I think a lot of kids movies can be very good for adults, and this one really is just very flashy, fun to watch. There's not really that much sustenance to it, but it's good for us, us Nintendo fans who like to see these games on the big screen. And I think that is really why I liked it so much. I don't have issues with it. I think I came out of the movie with a pretty positive experience, just kind of, exactly as I expected. I liked it, could have been better, but it also could have been much worse. So I'll take it as it is. I think it is better than the first movie for me. There's more to it. It is more funny for sure. I really like how they got away from the Mushroom Kingdom and went into these galaxies. I think that really did add a lot to the movie. What I am looking forward to is what new movies they have coming on the horizon. I think the Legend of Zelda movie is going to be a really good one. I'm excited to see how Nintendo brings that and kind of brings it to life. But also, I think that this was a great start for the Star Fox series to start, or some Star Fox movies. I do think that Star Fox could be Nintendo's Star Wars. I think it would be that strong of an IP. Also, people love furries. Just saying. While we're talking about these spin-offs really quick, I should mention Donkey Kong. He was not in this movie at all. He was briefly shown at the beginning in New York a little bit. I think he was building some stuff. So yeah, kind of interesting that he wasn't in this at all, especially considering how much Nintendo has been pushing the Donkey Kong franchise and the Donkey Kong IP down our throats. They literally made an amusement park. They replaced the 3D Mario of this generation with a Donkey Kong game. I'm not saying that 3D Mario is not coming out, but they prioritized a Donkey Kong 3D game over a Mario 3D game, at least at the beginning. At least in this little season of Nintendo that we are, they are really shoving Donkey Kong down our throats. So I'm surprised that they didn't utilize how big this movie was going to be and, push Donkey Kong's franchise, Donkey Kong's IP just a little bit more through it. He was in it. They did talk about Donkey Kong. It's just kind of weird how big of a character he was in the first movie and how little he was here in the second movie. It's kind of weird, to be honest. Just a side note on that, I think that when they do make a Donkey Kong movie, it would not be nearly as good as this one, especially if Seth Rogen is playing it. I mean, I got nothing wrong with Seth Rogen. I just don't know how this Donkey Kong would do in a solo movie. It'd probably be fine. It might be better, especially if they add King K. Rool and the Kremlings and stuff to it. Maybe it would be good. I haven't really thought about it too much, but I don't know. We'll see. It wouldn't do as good as a third Mario movie. But anyways, let's talk about the end. We should probably definitely talk about the ending. It sounds like I was wrapping it up there, but I forgot that I need to talk about the ending. The ending was fine. Bowser gets turned into Dry Bowser, which you could definitely see coming. It's kind of weird how they ended him being Dry Bowser and they didn't put flesh back on him or anything. I thought the final boss battle wasn't that good. I don't know why it wasn't that good, but it wasn't super crazy. It was fun to watch. It was a good boss fight battle scene, but it went really fast. The whole movie just went fast. I got nothing wrong with it. I love how they just kind of filtered through a bunch of those power-ups, and they use some really deep or recent ones. They use the Red Star, as I mentioned earlier. I thought that was really cool. That's only ever been seen in Galaxy, so it's interesting how they pulled from that game. But also they used the drill. They used the Mario drill, which was only first shown off in Mario Wonder. So just like Bowser Jr.'s Wonder ability, they pulled from the most recent 2D Mario game, being Wonder, and yeah, I thought that was cool. I also found it interesting how Yoshi used the one power-up that made him turn into a cloud, like a big, thick Yoshi. That was funny. I liked that. That was a good one. Yeah, like I said, the movie ended fine. It was a little anticlimactic, if that's how you say that word. And let's see what else. Oh, let's talk about that post-credit scene. Once again, okay, at this point, you already know everything about the movie at this point. But regardless, the end credit scene, we got to see some Daisy going on, and that is really exciting. I'm surprised we actually didn't see Daisy in this movie. I guess I'm not that surprised, but that shows to me, you know what, if they're gonna add Daisy, they have to add Wario and Waluigi in the next movie. You can't tell me they're not gonna do that. It's like the Sonic movies. They just keep adding more and more characters in the more movies they have. And yeah, Daisy, Wario, and Waluigi, I think is definitely gonna be in that last one or in the next one. Kind of weird that she wasn't already in this movie, like I kind of said. Like, why did she just all of a sudden show up? Also, I think a lot of people thought that Daisy and Peach were sisters, you know, like the Mario Bros. That clearly isn't the case. Unless it is still the case. But we'll know in the next movie, we'll know in the next 3 years, maybe even 4 years. Now, what is the game gauge score? What am I putting this on Russ Vandy's game gauge? And yes, the game gauge can do movies now. I've been talking about this movie for over 50 minutes. Cut together, it's probably not 50 minutes, but what is it on Russ Vandy's game gauge score? All right, everyone, are you ready? I'm putting the Mario Galaxy movie at a 6.5. That might seem pretty low to some people, but you know what? It's exactly what I expected. No offense. The first movie I'd say is a solid 6. This one is 6.5. And if you want to argue with me, go after this one, go watch Ratatouille or go watch Up. Those are fantastic kids movies. They're pretty old, but they hold up very well. Go watch one of those movies and then really pay attention to the story and the character development in those movies. And then watch like Super Mario Galaxy. Super Mario Galaxy might be a little more flashy and stimulating to watch, but I think as a movie, when it comes to the story, it's a little bit less interesting. I love the characters in the Mario Galaxy movie a lot more than any Disney movie because, you know, they're Mario and I love Mario. And I especially love, you know, Star Fox being in Mario and just what this could mean. Like, this could definitely mean that we're seeing some Smash Bros movie. They're starting the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. I'm really excited for what this means for future Nintendo movies. But yeah, that's my game gauge score, 6.5. That's what it ranks on the game gauge. Anyways, if you've made it this far, you have most definitely, at least I hope, you've already seen the entire movie of the Mario Galaxy. Let me know what it ranks on your little personal game gauge. Tell me, give me a score. Tell me what you thought about it. Give me a highlight. Give me a low moment that you didn't like. Tell me if I missed something, because I'm sure I did miss a lot. I could honestly talk about this probably for another hour, especially if I was with someone just chatting about it. But yeah, let me know what you think about this movie. And did you get the Yoshi popcorn bucket? You gotta let me know. Anyways, thank you all for watching and listening to me yap the day away. It was fun. I'm excited for the next Nintendo movie. But anyways, yeah, thank you all for watching. Check out some other videos on Russ Vandy too. They're not as long as this one, but maybe they should be. Maybe you like them like that. So thank you for tuning in. Like and subscribe, do all that epic YouTube stuff, and I will see you in the next one. See you later.